Hello there and welcome. My name is Martin Close, and this is the Classical Art Academy Online Art School. Hello and welcome everybody to tonight's stream. So you caught me putting my glove on, but here we go. So if you recall, last week we did a charcoal sketch, and we then went ahead and did an imprimatura of a seascape in preparation for painting on plein air outside, because look at the weather we've got today, it's beautiful. So spring is here. And although the first on plein air workshop which we're doing is in the forest, we've done a seascape. All good. But there's a seascape on plein air workshop coming up, which I believe is sometime in May or June. So we'll get the dates released on the website very quick, or next few days or so. So let's go over what we did. So last week we did a sketch of this on charcoal, and we did an imprimatur of that. And we did a couple of sketches, and this sketch here, I kind of felt after the stream ended would make for a better painting. So I then went ahead during the week and did an imprimatur of the sketch using the sketch as a base. So where we are today is we have this sketch as our guide, and this is the imprimatur which we've made from the sketch. Now, the reason we go to an imprimatura rather than straight into paint is, especially on a seascape, which is probably the reason why I chose it to start with. The sea is constantly moving. And if you mix your paints up and you start popping the sea, and it can get very confusing for the students who start to paint the sea, because you're constantly putting something on and altering it, putting something on and altering it. So the purpose of doing the charcoal sketch is a bit like you take almost like a photograph in your mind's eye. You see a wave coming in, you think, oh, that's nice. So you in charcoal, you can very quickly sketch this out. And as you compose your painting, because let's face it, you can look down there at the beach, here at the sea, or wherever you want to look. But once you compose your painting in charcoal, it's a lot of tick boxes already done. You don't have to worry about should that be included or this included. You've composed your painting as such, even though it's in charcoal. And because charcoal is so swift and quick to use, you can capture skies very quickly. You can capture the ambience of the sea. The painting you want to paint that day, you can capture quite quickly in charcoal. Bear in mind, as the day progresses, the sun's going to move. So your shadows are going to move, the colors are going to change. So, yeah, anything which makes it simpler to paint is, I think, good. So from this, we went and then did what we call an imprimatura. Now, there's a number of different ways in which we can do this. What we did here is that we mapped out, and then we added stain to the dark areas, and where we needed to, we lifted off a bit, or we just kept it as bare canvas. So we got the outline of our image, a tonal value study of the charcoal is now kind of in here on the painting. Now, again, the reason I'm doing this in the studio and not live is that I think it's easier to focus on these techniques in a studio. So when we get onto the beach and the wave's constantly moving, we don't have that to think about, shall we say, okay? So you've got to imagine we are on the beach doing this live on plein air, but we've done a quick sketch or a number of sketches. We've chosen what we want. We've made the composition onto our canvas using a stain, which we call an imprimatura stain, which is a transparent stain, heavily diluted with solvent. We can now map out the image very, very quickly without worrying about color. Now, it's an extremely cost-effective exercise as well, because obviously paints being what they are, you don't want to sort of put stuff on and then scrape it off afterwards if you can help it. So here's extremely fast, very cost-effective in time and also in materials. But we now have tonal value painting, which we can then put paint onto, and that's what we're going to do today. Now, I tend to, as a general rule, always paint the furthest away first. So the furthest away here is obviously the blue dome of the sky right on the horizon. I'll do that first, and I'd start painting up. I'd go around the clouds, and you'll see me do this. I'd then start putting the cloud in, because that's the next nearest thing to me. The cloud is in front of the blue sky. We're assuming it's blue. And then I would start working on the horizon, the distant areas here, and then move forward down to this section, forward again down to here, again forward, forward and forward. This stops me doing something, which is putting fine detail or high contrast detail into this area here. Because as I work quickly, the idea is that we cover the entire canvas, excuse me, it leaves me with putting detail in right at the end. And of course, that kind of conditions me in the method of working. I would put a little detail in here, maybe a little bit less in here, tiny bit more in this area, and the maximum detail I'd be putting in this area here, because that's nearest to me. And that's really important to put across. Let's have a quite little slurp of tea as my voice is already going. Cool. Ginger tea. It's very gingery. Now, let's move to our palette. And as you can see on the bottom right of the screen, we have already made up some colours. On the palette, I've got titanium white, and I normally put two lines of white in. There was one here, but you can see it's probably just remnants of now. This is a new colour for the palette, which is Naples Yellow Light. We then have three old favourites, which is Cadmium Yellow Deep, Alizarin Crimson, and Ultramarine Blue. Another new addition is this, which is a sap green. Now, I occasionally put sap green onto seascapes because the sea, generally speaking, being what it is greeny blue or greenish, and can get very green depending on where you are in the world. Changes from day to day. But I put green in here just as an option. This is sap green. I don't think I've actually used it yet, but I've not actually mixed the colours for the sea up yet, so we might use that later on in the stream. Here we have Ivory Black, the old favourite, which looks like I've got a remnant of grey, of white or something in there, so we'll take that off. Now there's a couple of pre-mixed colours. We have a couple of greys, which there was a third, which was darker. Very common with me, as I'll mix up a light medium and a dark grey. Normally something like a 10%, 30% and 50% grey. The reason for this is that it helps me to desaturate a colour very quickly without changing the hue of the colour. Here we have some blue dome colours, which is this area here going up. And here we have some cloud colours. And this I've made quite a bit of because it's what I would call an ambient light. So this colour will also appear not only in the cloud, but also in the white areas around here, the foam, and some reflective areas as well. So depending on the mood we want with the painting, and I've decided on a kind of a happy sky here. So it's going to be a happy painting. But if it was a dramatic painting, then obviously this could be, the ambient light could be a lot cooler. Or indeed higher chroma. It could be an orange if it's a sunset. It depends upon the light itself, the ambient light. So let's get started. I'm going to use a filbert for this, which that's a chisel. So we'll grab a filbert. Here we go. This is a Rosemary & Co. Ivory long filbert, number 4. So let's get started now. For our medium, let's put this open. This is a mixture of stand oil and solvent. Probably to, I'd say 20% solvent, 80% stand oil. There's a number of different mediums which we'll be exploring with you guys as the months and the years progress. This is an old favourite of mine for painting outside with, because it just helps the paint flow. It's ideal for putting on top of an imprimatur because it is oilier, shall we say. So fat onto lean box, it ticks. So let's start with putting the, remember, the just above the horizon area in. So I'm going to put a little bit of that into our mix, just to help the flow of paint. Here we go. And that's obviously the cloud colour. Excellent. Well, I'm going to put that in anyway. Another way of doing this is to do the cloud first. So I'm just going to put an outline on this rather than the entire cloud. I'm just going to, which will actually help me join the blue sky up with the edge of the cloud. So I'm just going to come around the edge. Not too much paint, just enough to cover the area. Just on that edge. Continue as I started. Hope everything's okay. You can hear me, and the sound and the video quality is good. Please do send a message if you have any comments or things you want to say. Rachel's with me, so she's standing by the text messaging screen, as I say. And hope you guys are all well and have had a super week. Looks like we're going to have a nice weekend, so I'm looking forward to that because we're in the New Forest this weekend. Saturday and Sunday, painting live into Rhinefield, which is Blackwater Car Park, I think. If you're, I think it's that, but if you want to know exactly where we're going to be, do message Rachel and she'll tell you exactly where we're going to be setting up. If you want to come and join us and paint those, please do. You can just book in with Rachel. There's a small cost, obviously, for the tuition, but we're keeping it to low numbers deliberately because of, obviously, the situation currently. So you can see I've got a rough outline of where the cloud is. Now, in here, it's going to be, I don't mind so much if there's a blue bleed into the cloud because this is the shadow of the cloud. So here, same, here, same, here, same. But I think I'm okay with that. Just do that bit. Right. I'm going to wipe the brush and have some more tea, I think. My voice is a bit croaky today, as usual. Cool. Right. So, scene 1, take 2. It's nice to know it's live, isn't it? So here we go. Now, like I said, not too much paint. The beauty of these longer filberts is you don't get paint up into the ferrule. You keep the brush much longer that way. Now, I'm just going to pop that across. Now, I'm going to be slightly disrespectful to the horizon. What I mean by that is I'm going to ignore it. So I know where it is, but I don't want to do a fine edge. I don't know, this doesn't work for me because it's too sharp. It's too sharp an edge. Unless you have the eyes of a hawk, you would never really see a really very sharp edge on the horizon. So don't worry about it. We'll pop it in, and we just bring the sea up a little bit and the sky down a bit until we decide where the horizon's going to be. We know it's here somewhere. So I'm just going to apply a little bit of this paint. You'll notice it's kind of, it's almost a duck egg blue. It's a lot of people put too much high chroma into their colours in a landscape. So fairly subdued colour. And I'm just popping that in. I'm just checking where we are. I think that's about right, because the horizon really is around about here. I can sort of pop it in as a rough bit more dip. I keep meaning to go into this colour. I'm going to probably do that a few occasions. I can pop it in so you can see where it is. Just make sure I'm not obscuring the camera. Makes a change for me to be in front of the camera. Quite enjoying that process. I can see what I'm painting. Love doing still life, but need to rethink the still life setup, camera assembly, I think. Okay, so you can see we've really gone into the sea here, and that's fine. So don't worry too much if you're. There's no need to be too critical over the fine edge at this stage. It's going to be good. Right. So here I'm just going to carry up this colour a little bit. It probably is not going to stay that colour because this cloud, I'd imagine, doesn't sit on the horizon like some kind of floating cloud. It's going to be under the horizon line. So it'll probably continue on this, which means this colour here will bleed into the shadow colour of the cloud. But it's good to go. If you look at these colours, there's a real relationship going on between them. There, not too many colours have been used to mix them, so they kind of, all of them are related. And that's another beautiful thing about having, although this is slightly extended palette, having a tight palette really gives you that kind of quality of colour mix. So I'm going to come in here between these clouds. These are probably, to call them clouds is giving them a huge compliment. They're more of a cloudette. It's very distant clouds. And I will probably change the colour of these as well because we'll want to make those warmer. Because of refraction, as the light enters the atmosphere of our planet, the Earth, it bends and splits from blues all the way through into reds. And so down here, because of the refraction index, these clouds here will, as you lower you go down, it gets warmer. This is why if you look straight above you, you've got a purpley blue sky above you. It's due to the refraction effect on the atmosphere, or on the light as it enters and passes through our atmosphere. It's a bit like the anatomy of a sky. It's very important, I think, to know this sort of stuff. I'm going to go too high with this colour and I will be blending it with other colours, but you can see I'm not putting it on too thick either. It would be an error to do that. So here we go. The other thing that's going to change is I'll definitely change the shape of these clouds and add to them. It's almost like at this stage it's a guide for me to say, oh, there's a cloud there, don't forget it. Pop a little bit of something in there. Again, just keeping it So I know the horizons around that area, those would definitely come down, but they're okay. We'll affect those in a sec. All right. So let's just pop a bit on there. And even though this is going to be cloud, let's just move that up a bit. Right, there we go on to the next color. So I'm going to use the same brush because we're going to go from one color into the other. So we're kind of going to be, I don't want to use the word blending because that's not what I want to be doing at this stage. But they'll mix into each other, let's put it that way, which of course is blending. But here we go, this colour. By the time we get up here, you'll go, ah, that's why he's used that colour down there. Hopefully. Trying to be a little respectful of these clouds, the edges. Although, like I said, everything will, I'm sure, change to one degree or another. Hope you're all enjoying this beautiful weather we're having. I've got a feeling we'll be doing a little bit more external location painting than normal because of we can be outside and be happy, as I say. Right, so coming to the useful end almost of this colour, I'm going to actually, because I want it to merge into each other, so I'm going to put it up another centimetre. And this is very much first stage, first layer of colour going in. So don't put too much colour in at this stage. It's better to put too little in, and I think, than too much in when you're learning, or indeed any time. So there's, I don't know if you can see that on screen, there's a band here and there's this band here. So to create a subtle shift from one to the other is very easy, because although they are similar in value, they are very sidely. They're also a little bit similar in hue. They're not terribly dissimilar. This is slightly greener and this, which is slightly purplier blue, but that's about it. Now we come up a little bit more, and you can see this is now really shifting into the blue part of the spectrum. So you should see a big shift now as we put this colour in. Again, I'm not cleaning my brush. I don't need to. I want to use the paint which is on there to help me create the transition from one colour to another. There's a big dollop of fluid I put on there. So the medium is used to increase the flow of the paint, to make the paint a little bit easier to paint with. And depending on what paint you're using, I've dominantly, I think predominantly got Rembrandt oils on the palette here, but we could quite so easily have Old Holland, which is another favourite mix of mine, or manufacturer of mine. If it was Old Holland, we would definitely need a bit more medium because it's very concentrated. Right. So again, I'm going to cap that off. I'm just moving, as you could say, rather than going around and leaving a gap around the cloud, which I don't want to do, we are going on top of slightly. So going into the white, or the cloud, from white for want of a better word, into the cloud area here by maybe a mil or two, but trying to keep a respect of the shape. If we've got a nice shape, if we haven't got a nice shape, and obviously you can change it, but it's, you know, it's your sky. But the if we're happy with the, generally happy with the cloud shape, then you don't want to change it too much. So there we go. Now notice this is, again, this is another one of those, it's not a rule, it's not a law, it's a kind of ish general rule, is that because our atmosphere is a liquid, it acts like a liquid. So as you come up, the colours will come up in a reasonably horizontal band. And that's not always true, as you'd expect, but generalisation here. So your light coming slightly darker, slightly darker, slightly darker would be in a horizontal band going up. There's always exceptions to every rule I have ever come across, and there's no exception to that rule either. So it really depends upon so many things. Generally speaking, that's a pretty good ish to go by. There we go. Now this will probably end up being the back end of the cloud. In other words, if I put blue in there, I'll be putting a shadow color of the cloud in. So, but again, it'll be, won't make any difference. So this area will, it's like putting some paint in so that you can put other stuff on top. If that makes any sense, but it hopefully will do by the time you see me do it. So another good reason not to cover the canvas with big dollops of paint. At this stage, the dollops they have a place. They'll be, we do dollops of paint, but not at this stage. Okay, do laugh at my own language sometimes. All right, so we're getting there. Now you notice there's a dip here. I really don't have to worry about it being perfectly level. It's an ish generalization. Now we are going to a deeper blue here, and it is a good few stops darker, or I use the word stop, but it's like a step darker. Old photographic terminology there. I think that you can see as a definite shift. Now I'm using still the same old brush, not bothered cleaning it. Now for those of you who've heard tutoring artists say always use one brush per color, they're true. That's correct. It's always a good idea. But we have a family of colors here. They're kind of all related, so it helps me to not do that in this particular case. I think the more you paint and the more you learn, the more rules you tend to adjust. Possibly a good word. You can see we're moving quite swiftly up on this sky, and I'm adding the little bit of the medium to it, which, like I said, I'll repeat for those who've just joined us, it's a stand oil and solvent mix. It's got 20% solvent in it to 80% stand oil, which means it's still quite gloopy, but does flow a little easier than if you did nothing at all. Okay, so you can see it's actually quite a happy sky, isn't it? I kind of feel a bit like we should make it a bit miserable, but it's possibly just me. I think I'll add another something at the top just to give it a bit more something. Now that's ultramarine blue, which is not what we're going to be adding. I'm just sticking it there. Now to this, we need to, first of all, make it related to these. So I'm going to add in a little bit of the cadmium yellow deep. And we don't want to make it go green, so do not add too much. That's gone green, so add a bit more blue. Now the cadmium yellow deep is it's like an amber. So it's a very warm yellow, but it's a very strong and deep yellow. I love it for skies and landscapes of all different types. You can see we've got this colour. What we need to do is to make it slightly lighter, but also possibly greyer. I'll try with the light first. So we're adding some titanium white to it. I don't need a lot, so I'm not going to be mixing a huge amount. Maybe a bit lighter than that. Just looking at the amount I've mixed. Yeah, we need to be a bit less mean. Let's go for it. So a bit more yellow, a bit more blue. And I'm going to add some grey, but I need a slightly darker grey, so I'm going to add the tiniest bit of black to the mix. And the reason I want to add black to the mix is I don't want it to be too high a chroma colour. Need it to be related, slightly darker, but I don't want it to be bright, riotous blue. You can see the difference on that palette. I think that's kind of nice. So I think by the time I add, doing well tonight, some fluid, I'm hoping that's going to be enough to cover across the top. I think it is. Doesn't look dark enough now. Yeah, I think that's okay. Yep. So we just pop that across. Yes, I was hoping I've mixed enough. That would be embarrassing, wouldn't it? You will stretch across the canvas. Good. Now notice the way I'm applying the paint as well. For those of you who have only recently started or watching these videos for the first time, rather than one of our regular students, little kisses like this. So many people do this, they dab it on. Do not dab your paint on. It is a atrocious way of painting. And also lots of people do this. Well, don't do that, because the light colour here gets put on top of the dark colour there. I don't know if you can see that. Yes, you can. And you do that all over, it's going to look a real mess. Also, it'll look like it's raining all over the place. So, because it's all in one direction. People buy oil paintings, for many different reasons. And one of the reasons being is that they want it to look like an oil painting. So put some brush marks in. If they wanted to buy a photograph, they'd buy a photograph. So I don't want to go too wild on the blending of this. I think we're about there in actual fact. And I try generally hard not to, I want to obscure the painting, to go more than that. I think that's okay. I'm just going to tickle across here a little. And then we'll call it. So that's like first layer. Let's put that in there. Now, let's come back into a filbert again. Same long filbert number 4, Rosemary & Co. Ivory. I know many artists who teach swear by hog brushes. I actually love the idea of squirrels being in bushes, not brushes, and hog being the same. So I tend to favour artificial brushes. Now, Rosemary & Co. Ivory are superb. They're easy to clean. They hold their shape well. This brush looks relatively new, but some of them, which I know I'm using, like this one here, for example, actually that's still quite new. That's trying to think if I've got any older brushes out. But some of mine are like 4 or 5 years old and they're still good as new. Let's come into here. So start again by putting some of this lighter colour on, working from light into dark, both for the sky going up and the clouds which would be going the other way. And just re-establishing the edge a little. Thing to be mindful here is that we don't want a bunny rabbit in the sky or Santa's sleigh or something like this. So just be mindful of reproducing something which is slightly not realistic. We have very tidy brains, and it's very easy for our brains to go 1, 2, 3, and they're equally spaced. Let's try not to do that. I'm just literally re-establishing some of these edges and putting a bit of colour in here. Now, this is mixing in with the colour of the sky, and that's good. We want that to happen. Bringing that down a little. Going to do this on all of them because I realise there's the horizon there, so we might need to lower these a little bit or adjust them, but we'll see. Painting is a live experience. And we can make changes any point of time we wish. Oh, sorry. I deafened anybody there. All right. Yep, okay. We're going to look into this as we progress around. But for now, I'm not too displeased with that. So the light of the cloud is where it's being hit by sunlight. It's not because the cloud is lighter in colour. It's probably the similar sort of colour all the way through, but this part of it is being hit by sunlight, and as such will appear lighter. As we move around the cloud, which is obviously a three-dimensional object, it will change from this light into being a shadow colour. Mostly, shadows are cooler. Mostly, usual. There's no such thing as an absolute rule. And the highlights are warmer. Just pop this in. Tiny little bit more fluid into that. Oops. I touched the paint of the pile that was underneath, which of course was the sky colour, and it's gone onto the brush. This is great because it shows you how to get out of a situation which you put yourself in. A lot of people will probably have a complete meltdown and go, oh, you know, whatever, it's fine. This is oil. It's not a It's not a trauma. Just get a bit of tissue, there we go, and wipe the brush and just massage that paint off. It's fine. I'm almost glad I did that because it was an opportunity to show you something. Everything we learn through our mistakes. We don't learn anything from doing everything right. So, which I think is worthy to say. If you make a mistake, then great, because you're learning. Okay. Just putting some base colour in. I suppose you could call this a highlight colour, I know, but I think we're generally speaking going for a happy sky here. Right, so let's move on. I'm going to keep that brush as highlight and move into another brush for the shadows there. I'm still going to use a filbert. This is a ordinary filbert. Is there always a flat? No, it's a flat. Looks like a filbert, but it's a flat. So moving down into, we could call this the body of cloud. So it's not a highlight. It's not really a shadow. It's kind of the body side. And we're just going to form our cloud in this way. If you struggle with anatomy of clouds, I really suggest treat them as boxes, because it's just easier to treat them that way. Maybe we'll do a stream on how to construct a cloud and what a cloud is, but if we make this into a number of boxes, some of the boxes are nearer to us, some of them are to the left, to the right, up, down, bigger, smaller, and then you round off those boxes, we get the shape of a cloud, and then you can understand that this shadow here means that this is getting sunlight, this isn't, but this cloud here means that it's nearer, maybe slightly further forward, who knows, but it's certainly nearer, and it's therefore it's getting the sunlight, whereas this part of the cloud isn't. So the anatomy of a cloud, it's a very, you're going to do a lot of sky paintings, and let's face it, there's not many landscape seascapes which don't have skies. So it's good to give it a bit of thought. And already you can see that adds to the experience of that cloud. So, oops, wrong colour. That'll add to experience. No, it's the right colour. I'm on the ball today. Okay. So again, not too much paint. It's like it's a darkened room, so we're not too sure of walking into something. So we're treading carefully. We're exploring the cloud and developing it up, because by now this has obviously moved on. It's no longer there, it's vanished. But it's in our drawing, which is why we did the sketch. Just to further complicate issues, this sketch, well, sometimes you change your mind. So it's not in stone, it's in charcoal. And if you want to change it, you can do. It is, after all, your painting. Now, the bottoms of the clouds are generally a slightly flatter smiley face. General rule. So when you're doing the bottom of a cloud, don't go left and right in a straight line. Little smiley faces, not huge big grins, but little sort of smiley faces. And that will give you a more realistic bottom to the cloud. And you'll see that as we progress through on this. So this is, like I said, it's almost like the body colour. It's not real shadow. It's not in the highlight. Just popping this a few places. I'm thinking cloud, by the way, whilst I'm doing this. So I might need to explain that expression in a minute. And it really helps if you are live, and if you're, obviously it does. I mean, you know, as in like live as in outside on the beach, because if there's clouds there, which probably there is because you've drawn them out, you can actually see how the cloud is looking. Now your cloud has gone, but it doesn't mean to say there's no other clouds in the sky. So you know, cloud has a top, a middly bit, and a shadowy bit. So you can look at shapes and see these patterns forming, and use the cloud that you can see, along with the sketch you've made, to help you with the cloud that you're painting. Hopefully that made a little bit of sense. Right, so almost getting there. I'm just putting a little bit around here, and I want to put a little bit up there, because I don't want to go from highlight to shadow. There's going to be, if I can try and explain this, there's the highlight, there's the shadow, so there's a middly bit, which isn't highlight or shadow. So this is what we're putting in here. Don't go too contrasty on a cloud at this stage. We don't want to be painting the storm of doom. I don't know, maybe. Not yet. Here we go. So this is petering out nicely. And you can see the reasoning now behind putting the sky colour in, because the cloud on the shadow side blends into the sky. It's not as highly visible as the highlight end, because the highlight end's got the sunlight. So the shadow side of a cloud, is the edge is often what we call a lost edge. It's kind of, where is it? You know, is it there somewhere? Yeah, you can see it goes from cloud into the sky, but it's misty. So maybe it doesn't have a strong edge. Right. Using the same brush, no, I'm going to be a good person and go to the next brush down. So light brush, medium brush, dark brush. Now this dark shadow color has, in its makeup, I'll go through the makeup of these colors actually, that's a good idea. These colors are made with titanium white, a little bit of Naples yellow light. Now if you haven't got Naples yellow light in your box of kits, use a tiniest bit, and I really mean tiniest bit, almost like nothing, of the cadmium yellow deep in with your white. It'll mix a similar color, or make a similar color to the Naples yellow light. Now then, so on top of this we got titanium white, Naples yellow, and a tiniest bit of the alizarin crimson. And the reason for that is the cloud highlight is warm. Okay, it's predominantly warm. It's a yellow star, so you know, Sol is yellow, so it's not going to emanate red light, but it's or emit, you know, red light, but it is warm light. This is the same mix, but it's got a little bit of titanium blue and a bit of more grey in it, so it's cooler. Gosh, my throat. Sorry about this, guys. Let's have a quick slurp, see if I can find my vocal cords. Right. So these colours here, exactly the same start. White, Naples yellow, a little bit of alizarin crimson. This has got a tiny bit of blue into it, and grey. And this has got more blue and more grey, and also has a little bit more alizarin crimson in it as well. So family of colours, slightly different. And here, this is the shadow. So this is the bit of the cloud which doesn't get much light. Here we go. We can adjust this accordingly and mix it up and do all sorts. Here's where we can get really kind of nice and complicated on the cloud. I like getting complicated on clouds. Again, not too much paint, you don't need it. And don't go dark all over your shadow or your medium colour, just a little bit goes a long way. You'll notice also the darkest dark is next door to the lightest light of the cloud. Gosh, doesn't it look like a convenient hand? We'll change this and mess it up in a second, but for now it does look a bit like some kind of hand of something. I do smile when I do this sort of thing. If we had something out there in nature we're looking at, it does happen in nature. I've actually seen Bugs Bunny's ears in clouds and all sorts of things, but we wouldn't necessarily paint them, but we automatically do it. We have very tidy brains. And you can see the happy smiley face come into place here. Can you see this? A little happy, so it's like that. And that gives you a more, the cloud actually takes on a more realistic appearance when you do that. Putting a bit more of this shadow in. Again, please do feel free to, when you're doing this, don't do one, do 2 or 3 paintings simultaneously. Have not all at the same stage. So when I say don't do 2 or 3 paintings at the same time, I don't mean line them up and do the sky and the sky and the sky. I mean do one painting and complete it to that stage and do the next painting and do that to that stage. Now say you've got 2 imprimaturs, then come back to this and develop this as a cloud, first layer of paint. When you've done that, next day go and do this, another layer, first layer of paint. Build the 2 paintings simultaneously together, but not at the same time, if you know what I mean. And you will find that the mistakes and the troubles you had on the first painting should be, in theory, less, hopefully, or different problems than you get on the second painting. But also there's another great asset, and that is you don't make it your precious painting. You've got 2 of them. So there's no stress. You can, what's that phrase called, overpaint? Well, let's say you did. It doesn't matter if you do or you don't, but let's say you did. Well, you got the other painting still there sitting in the backline, so you can go back on it. And the painting which you feel you've overpainted, when it dries, well, you can correct whatever mistakes you've made. So it's a great asset, I think, if you do 2 paintings rather than the 1. Now you can see the shapes of this coming into play. I'm going to change this in a minute, it's doing my head. Never mind. Right. Going to come back and just take a look from a distance on that. Yeah. That's fine. So, all good. Let's have a quick look at the time. It's great. Gosh, we've done really well. It's only 6. Now, temptation is to, what's that word? Blend. We don't want to blend. So let's come back and Let's just make sure that we have no big, huge dollops of stuff on there. There's a line here, which, okay, maybe we'd have it, maybe we won't, but I want to soften a little bit. Now, you might find, okay, he just said don't blend. Well, right, it's not, I don't want to take these marks and edges away completely. Sometimes it's easy to overblend and lose everything. These are quite important, I think, to keep. Complicate. Let's see if we can develop this so that we don't get this these three big marks here. Let's just cut into that area a bit. Yeah. Oops, the cable of the microphone. I'm now going to put another brush in my hand, which is the highlight brush. And I'm just going to add a little bit of the highlight colour into the tops here. I'm doing this to change the 1, 2, 3 design, which we currently got. I don't really want to have that. Bringing that highlight a little bit in. Yeah, that's a little bit better. And I think we can do the same here. So effectively, there'd be a hole here. Let's have to see if what would happen. We put a bit of highlight over here. Now, because we got a shadow in, it is taking the light color and it's affecting its brilliance. Yeah, that's becoming a little bit more complicated. So that's what I mean by complicating the cloud. Doesn't look like 3 stripes anymore, hopefully. Kind of, gosh, a little slip of tea. Yep. And maybe we could just, that would be nice as well. Okay, so that's done a little bit of adjustment on that, which is, I think, made a better cloud. Okay. Moving across to the shadow brush, and I'm going to keep that edge on that as a significant edge, but I don't want to have a vertical stripe, so I'm just adjusting that a little. Again, if you had too much paint on your brush, this would be tricky to adjust. Gosh, I need to put it in the wrong color then. Again. It's very easy at this point to make your clouds grow beyond all reason. We really don't want that to happen. Kind of like the idea of these joined up. Yeah, okay, we can change that. It's a bit too twee. for my liking, but we'll change that in a second. Okay, now let's move on into the sea area. And initially, to do this, I'm going to grab a chisel brush, which is a chisel brush here. There we go. This is a long chisel again from Rosa & Co. Ivory, long flat, number 4. And we're going to put a horizon in. And we're going to be doing that with the sky color initially and adjusting it slightly. So this is the horizon color of the sky. Let's take a palette blade and just lift a dollop of that off. Good, right? And we want to make it, I think in this case, slightly, very, very slightly darker. Not a huge amount. Sometimes the sea can be lighter than the sky. We're going to make it can be the same. So at the distance, depends how hazy it is. But I think what we'll do to this is that we'll take the next color up, which is this band, and add a bit of that to this first color. Tiny bit more maybe. So we're going to make a hybrid. There we go. Mix of the two colors together. Now, see what that looks like. Yeah. It's almost indistinguishable from this color. So I'm going to go slightly darker still. Adding a bit more of the higher chroma colors to it. See what that looks like. So a little bit of dip, medium, sorry, keep calling it dip. It's because I keep dipping the brush into it, I think. Yeah. Now we can use an old friend here called Mal, so we can just see where the horizon line is, and we really need something to lift off with, which means I'd normally have a piece of something to bring that off. Is that going to work if I put that on there? No. So no worries. I'll not use it. I'll just go through and use it. Use the brush. So let's have a look and see where the level is first. I use the bottom of the painting. I can just make a mark here. And again, let's just see if I can get that. Use the top, I think it's probably quicker, easier. So that's the level, and you're there. Okay. Now, I'll put this in. If it's not quite right, then no worries. Almost the same color, which is fine because we're going to be doing stuff to this. Now, just mindful of that being slightly out, so I'm just going to go over again. I've got my finger resting on the top of the canvas, and as I work across, keeping my hand in the same place, missing the top of that. Hopefully, I can see where we are. All right. Now I could lower the horizon down by just lowering the cloud down a little bit, but we'll see. Let's put this in. When it comes to You wouldn't think this, would you? But I sometimes feel forest scenes are easier to paint because it's full of random shapes. Whereas with the sea, you've got to get the horizon in the, it's got to be flat. Whereas, of course, with a forest, it can be all over the place and no one will ever know. It's a lot easier to paint forests. Okay, so I might stand in front of the camera for a minute. If I do, I'm really sorry. Just need to run across a brush with this. Like I said, if it's not dead level, I'm really not worried at this stage. I'd rather it was in and wrong than not in at all. I'm kind of painting over all of the detail which we popped in on the Imprimatura. Just taking the edge away there. What's going to give us the horizon line on this is actually the peaks and troughs that we're going to be painting in a second. Just grab a level. I can just, it's awkward because of where we are, but let's take a dry brush. I haven't got paint on it. So I've got my finger, I don't know if you can see this, just resting underneath the canvas and lining up where it goes, and I'm just going to run it across. So let's grab the horizon line here. He tries to make sure that it doesn't nick the edge of the easel. Yeah, I can see that's going slightly down, so and where you are, I don't know if you'll be able to distinguish the two values on that. Well, you can just a little bit, gosh. I really must have the camera set up a bit better than on previous occasions. Yeah. Okay, so like I said, if it's wrong, it's wrong. I'm not really that fussed with it at this point. I'd rather if it was wrong than not in at all, which might seem strange to a lot of people. So once it's in, what I'm going to do next, what really tickle people, is I'm going to just smooth it or take the edge off a little bit, take the sharpness away a little bit. This is the shadow brush from the cloud I'm running over. And this is the brush from the sea. There's that shadow colour. Now, that's looking a little like Christmas. So you can see this is the cloud literally going down underneath. This is sea. That's sky. Sea, sky, sea, sky, sea, sky. Not overly obvious yet, but it will be. And I'm going to take this sea brush and again just soften that edge a little bit, because with this going on, it's going to be hazy. You're going to have splashes of water in the atmosphere and the horizon, and it's going to affect everything. So we need this to be ish, flat, yes, but not sharp. I think I'm happy enough at this stage with that. So we'll put the shadow brush down and I'll stick that there. That's the dark, medium and light of the cloud. Good. And here's our brush which we used a minute ago. Now this colour is actually going to be used for the mid-distant trough areas. So what I mean by this is a trough. It's the trough of the wave. It goes, let's get into camera. So it goes like this. It's the trough of the wave. That's a peak of the wave, which means, so I'm just making sure, yeah, that's the peak of the wave. So there's almost a left and right movement then, wasn't it? So as the water comes up, your eye, and dig myself in the eye with a brush, sees the deep water like this, and therefore sees into the water. It reflects out at the coming up here, which is the darker part of the sky. So again, if there is any reflection, it's going to be the darker part of the sky, but it's mainly going to be the colour of the deep water. Whereas the flat of the wave, your angle of reflection is like this. It's very low. See if I can get this so you can see what I mean. Let's get me flat. So as it comes like this, it goes up at the same angle, and that means it's going to be lighter. Whereas down here, it's going to be more blue. Hopefully I've explained that well. Please do leave comments if there's anything which I say which is a little bit confusing, because trying to explain it on different levels can take a few more than just one occasion. So, but generally speaking, the trough here will be bluer. The trough and the distance will be this colour. They'll be reflective of a lighter colour. So down here, we're going to have a bit of fun. So I'm going to put this in down here, which is the trough of this wave. I'm going to add a little bit of fluid to it. Again, smiley faces, because the waves go, like this, kind of. They don't, but we'll say they do. They're smiley faces. They're obviously they're not like, like this, which is a cartoon wave. There you go. And this wave is rising up, so it's kind of nice. Now also, the other thing that I'm doing here is I'm using the colours of the sky to bond the colours of the sea. In other words, I'm literally putting using the same colours of the sky into the sea. I'm making a stronger connection, and that's nice. Sometimes you can use too many different colors in a painting and it becomes a bit bitty. So this is the light frothy area of that cloud, the wave which is crashing over. And we haven't got anything in behind it yet because we've got no patterns in yet, but we are going to go to those in a second. So let's just run with this. Popping that in. And I think we're good to go there on that one. Again, not too much paint at this point. Can always stick more in. So we've got a happy colour there. I'm going to keep some of that, move the rest over. I'm going to make this bluer. So we got this colour. And let's add those two together. And this is what I was saying to you about as we bring it nearer, the trough will get bluer, higher chroma in this particular case, because the sky is bluer. You can see the difference in the two colours using the same brush. Bit of dip. Oh, sorry. Medium. And I'll just put it on. Can you see the difference? It's ever so subtle, but this is bluer than this. So little things like this will help make the painting a little bit special-like. I don't want to go wild and stick it everywhere, but where there's a flat, a trough, I think this we made as foam. We can put foam on a trough, so yeah. And I think I'll stick it in here as well, on that one. Just looking a bit like a seascape yet. Probably won't do until I get some more of these shapes in, but bringing it up. Now, here, yes, there, yes. We go again a little bit bluer. So I'm going to use the same color, shall I? Yeah, I can always remix. I'm going to save a bit. And using this color here, which is the darker sky color. Palette knives, by the way, has many, many different ones on the market. I tend to favor this shape. Show you there. Can you see that? If I put it on there, it's very thin at the top. Look at that. Some palette knives are huge. They're enormous, and they just pick up too much color. And of course, you end up then wasting so much color. When you come to paint, to clean the knife, it's you've got half a litre of paint on there. I think we've probably got enough to do what I need to do. A little bit of dip, not too much. Let's put the blade down somewhere. Yeah, now you can see if I brought, you could definitely see that. If I brought this up here. Can you see that as two different colours? Two different blues. So, in the trough, I should have mixed up some more. Do smile when I'm doing a painting this size and I've mixed enough up for a postage stamp. I obviously just wanted to show you how to mix more colour up in a second. Should be okay. I tell you what, I'm going to nick a bit of that over. Scraping that off. God, isn't painting fun? Where else would you rather be on a Tuesday evening when the sun's bleeding down and the pubs are open? Let's come in here. Okay. I will have to mix up a bit more because I don't think it's even the palette knife is looking a bit thin. I'll stick that on with a blade. Well, it's not on that. Right. So those are our troughs done. That's the flat part of the wave. Going to need some more tea. 2 seconds. It's real tea. Look at that. actually about 2 inches of ground ginger in this. Cool. Excellent. Right. Another brush. Yes, another brush. Just thinking which brush. Yeah, it's a good enough, good to go brush. Okay, so this again is as flat as a number 2, I think. Yep, number 2 long flat. Now, we put the lights in, which is the troughs. Let's put the crests in. Let's go for a crest colour. Now, we haven't actually got a crest colour mixed up, so good time to mix one up. Let's put that away. Let's get a tissue. Clean the palette knife. Okay, now the sort of crest colour, I was at the beach earlier today, actually. I went down to the seafront. And in a hope that the sea would be suitably rough, it was like a calm lake. But I could find in the shadows the colours which I wanted. Obviously, there's the sea colours of a sunny day. But nonetheless, here they are. So this is the dark shadow, and that's the aqua colour of the water of this is a slight riser. So this is basically the crest coming up colour, which is what we want to replicate. So let's get it. It's basically a blue, so we need a fair bit. So let's not be shy. Now, ultramarine blue is quite a strong colour. I'm going to be putting in some sap green into this. Quite a bit, I think. Let's see what that looks like. Can you see it's actually gone a lot darker? But it's still blue, which is what we want it to be. Might have to get a little bit more sap out in a second. Let's just have a quick look at this as a colour. So, yeah, I will do in actual fact. So from here, I'm going to cheat a bit. I'm going to add a little bit of the cadmium yellow. Now, not too much, as it will go a riotous green. Wiping the excess pigment off the blade, so I'm not wasting paint. Can you see that? Whoops, if we come this way, I'm not wasting paint on it. And just going to add a little bit of titanium, not a lot, just to test out the colours, see if I'm getting near. Yep, we're getting there. It's still a bit blue, but it's not a million miles away. If I can show you that. You can see it's getting there. It's just a little bit blue, so let's add a little bit more of the yellow. And I think I'm going to add that onto it because we've got quite a bit here, so it's going to take a few minutes to do this, but I think it's nice so you can see what I'm doing. Gosh, I look like I've got a tiny, tiny hand. Obviously that palette is reduced in size. Still blue and a bit of yellow, shifting it across to the green. Now, from memory, this I don't want it to be too high a chroma colour, so I'm going to be adding a little bit of grey into it in a second to reduce some of the chroma. There's a number of different ways we can do this. Grey is the easiest way of doing it. Let's bring this in a little bit lighter. The other way if it's a blue-green, there we go, if it's a blue-green, we would add what kind of red to the blue-green to kill the chroma. Question for you guys to consider whilst I do this. This is why I add grey. You don't have to worry about things like this, especially if you're not sure the true makeup. It could be strong sunlight or something, and you're going to make the wrong choice. Where are we with this? So that's got to go to there. I think a bit of Naples wouldn't hurt. So I'm going to mix that in. So have any of you decided whether it's what kind of red it's going to be to add to the blue-green? It is in actual fact an orangey red. The orange kills the blue, the red kills the green. If it was a let's say a yellow green, like sap green is considered to be more of a yellow green, then it would be a purpley red, not a yellow or an orange red. Right, let's see where we are with this. So it's still a bit dark. I'm adding Naples yellow to the mix. Yeah, it's still a bit dark. Okay, so I'm going to add a bit of titanium, which is a strong, ooh, that's a lot. Let's put some of that on the side. If you add a big dollop of something and it's obviously a bit of a surprise, then immediately scoop it up, put it on the side, don't mix it in with the colour unless you're sure it's going to be the right move. Let's check this out again. You can see it's very strong. So looking at that, it needs to go a little bit more yellowy, but it also needs to go, actually, it also needs to go grey. So let's stick some grey in. These are greys here. I don't want to go too light, but it is dark currently. Okay, it needs a little bit of red into it. Any red is going to shift the green away. It will make it go dark. You add red to this, it's going to want to go black. Better, tiny bit more red. And to compensate, we'll stick the rest of that white in, I think, which we put on the side, and mix the light together. It's still a little bit green, so I'm going to add a bit more red to that mix. That's quite a bit of red. It is a bit light, so that'll help that as well. There we go. It's still a little bit green. It's teasing. What I don't want to do is I don't want to make it go too far. Just a tiny bit of blue into that. I'm adding a little bit of white. When you add white or black to a colour, you do remove the chroma. So that can obviously affect. Okay, a little bit more. I'm going to add Naples yellow, which will probably affect the chroma less and give us a more pleasing colour. Let's just Not such a strong pigment, that's the only trouble. Okay, so mix those together, see what we come to. I think this is going to be near enough to go anyway. It doesn't have to be spot on. It's near enough, so let's push that away and use it. So that's the dark. Scoop that up into a nice dollop. When you mix colours and you scoop them up, try really hard not to have like a big expanse like this, because this is oxidizing and it will dry a lot quicker than if it's like this. A dollop like that could last you days. Something spread out like this is going to only last maybe 1 day before it's just gone dry. Right. So with a brush again, a little bit of dip, medium. And with the brush upside down, because this is going to do wonders for us. Now, this is a little bit of a distance away, so this will be probably be slightly lighter, but right in some of this, I think it's still going to be quite dark. So let's just put this in initially round here, just to bring in some of these colours. So brush upside down, I'm working this colour in. Trying reasonably hard to stick to the pattern we've got. Actually, it does look quite dark on the screen, but it's not as dark as in life. I'm just going to put this up. So this being the darker colour goes right up here. Now the foam patterns go on top of this and they really shine. If this is dark, they wouldn't shine out if it was light. Okay, let's bring this in. So I'm not putting it all the way down. Can you see this? I'm just putting it on the top of the crest. Bit of medium again, helps it flow. That's quite an interesting little pattern design there. That's around this area here, isn't it? This is going to be complicated and adjusted and really brought out a lot. So we need some fairly defined shapes in there for it to work. Down back here, we're going to go, I'll show you as we work up. It won't be as defined as detailed. So right, where are we? And here we can put a bit. Bit more of the medium. And some of these waves, they're not all in one direction. They're turning around the place, and that's fine. That's pretty much what happens in When you're at sea, you can get this. When you're near to the shore, they tend to line up and come in all orderly. Just popping these in. Anywhere I feel is going to be a rising crest. Oh, that is a little flat, but we can, again, I can adjust it, complicate it, do all sorts. Purposely not putting a huge amount of thick dollopy paint on because, again, if it does need to adjust, it's quite easy to do. If we don't have stacks of paint on. Because at this stage we're kind of still saying, well, you know, I think it's going to be like this. We don't have to make any firmed up decisions. Right, now, yep, missed one. Here we go, stick that in. Good, I'm about to fall off. Now, I'm just going to put this on the upper part. And the reason of this is, as it's a bit further away, it'll be slightly lighter. There won't be as high detailed contrast in the dark areas. Again, for those of you who come to class regular with me at the school, you'll know as you increase the distance, you lose the contrast. As a purpley blue shift generally happens with the colours, your chroma goes and it goes slightly lighter normally into the mist. All right, we're getting there. Just looking a bit dramatic. I'm going to switch in a second to a lighter colour, which would be kind of the body colour of the wave. And not so much the top of the crest. Okay. Just want to put that in, I think, around here. Where are we? There. Shall I do? Yeah. Just a quick think on that. Just lost the shape on that a little bit. Yeah, we'll complicate that out in a minute. Right, so that brush goes down. Now, so that's our dark colour, which I'll keep. And now this, which I'll put a bit more of that dark in. We don't need too much. What I'm going to do here is to mix up a lighter variant of that. I'm going to use Naples yellow and stick that in. We'll it's going to go to the blue shift because we're coming down into the blue, so we'll add a little bit of French ultramarine, and we want to make it lighter, so we'll add a little bit of white. Now, brave man indeed who sticks all those three colours together in one go, but here we go. Let's see what comes out the other end. Needs to go lighter than that, so we'll put that white in. And a bit more. Bit more. See how the white has made the chroma go, if you look at the two colours there. And I add a little bit more blue to this mix. And because the blue is darker than what we want, I've added a little bit more white to that as well. If I make it too white, well, I can stick some of this in. So there's no real huge stress. Yep, I'm happiest with that, so we'll start popping that in. So we'll new brush. That'll do. I'll put a slightly longer one in. Here we go. Bit of medium. And here, because this is the lighter version of, it's slightly darker than this. This is the lightest trough colour. Then we went blue and start. But we can start putting the details into these ways at the top. Just grab a quick check on the time. Yeah, we're doing good. So what it is, I'll come to that in a second, but right now I'm going to add some of this blue colour into here. And as we do, we might actually have to go a little bit lighter still in a minute. But I said to you, this is further away, so it won't be as wooey as this. We've got to have some differential between the two distances. So I'm probably putting a little bit of this colour into the dark area. Mixing, therefore they'll mix together and make a slightly lighter. And I'm going to take a little bit of that colour, not too much, and the remainder of that white, I think I'll come into this ambient colour, steal a bit of light from that. Just take a little bit more. That's it. Good. I'll come back into that in a second as to why, because I want to join those two up. So here, similar, we're not as far away as that one, but nonetheless a little bit nearer. I can get the light colour, which is this, I think. Yes. And take that and apply it. And what I'm going for now is a little softening of those two with the brush. You can see it just pushes up. And I think we can probably have a slight more. I don't go too wild at this distance on that. Let's just come into that colour again. And pushing this up into that. I'm going to take that brush, use a bit of this colour which we've actually just pre-mixed or mixed up. add it between the two. And what we'll end up with is a wave which goes from the crest to the trough. Keep making sure I don't obscure the camera. Let's put it down there for a sec. Right. Softening that edge. We don't need it to be completely edge free, but we do need it to be varied into one colour from another. There we go. Now, let's bring down, we'll come into this area next. Let's just get the right brush in place. That's the lightest one. Yeah, I'm just going to put a bit of light into that, I think. So this is the in-between colour, the blue. I think I need a bigger brush. Put a bit of medium and let it flow a bit easier. Now the nearer we come, the less we need to worry about making it totally smooth, because onto this we're going to be putting all sorts of different foam patterns in. This is a slightly darker brush. And with the shape now, thinking of the shape of the wave, I'm putting that across. I'm going to join these two up. Again, a little bit of this in-between colour on the in-between the two. And just taking that up slightly into the crest. You don't need to do too much more than that. Now, let's look at some of these distant waves, because that'll, I think, work quite well. I'm going to use a number 2 chisel. Methinks. Is that a number 0? Yeah, for the distant stuff, actually, I'm going to use a number 0. So it's probably all we need initially, this lighter colour. I'm flattening it out so that it's not going to be too much paint on it. I'm going to hold up the, I'll use a round stick on this particular occasion. So we're going to hold the brush up slightly. I'm just using this so the brush is sticking up, and I'm going to glide across, not as a big move or movement, but as a small one. First one goes in. Reload, because it's wet. And here we are going to just put a shape in. Now effectively this is a distant crest coming up. That's all it is. It's a crest that comes up. But it's so far away. And because it's so far away, it hasn't got the contrast that these near waves have. Beginnings to take effect. Don't put stripes in there. They are shapes, and they're kind of, again, they're not flat lines. They are slightly smiley faces, but not huge grins. Okay. The general shape is curved. Keep the highlight a little bit. And for the distant waves, don't go huge. They will be smaller. As they come nearer, they will grow. Maybe you can see that on screen. Come into this area. By putting the brush up, we're getting a sharp edge on the top. If we did like this, we'd have a sharp edge on the bottom. Slurp of tea. Again, little techniques which work, and don't go too. We don't want a massive tsunami coming in. It's supposed to be at a distance. So around here, it could easily be, I don't know, let's say a mile out or something. You can see now why I wasn't too worried about where the horizon was, because we could stick it in any time. Try not to be all the same pattern on this. And as it gets nearer, you can afford to have bigger shapes. I hope I'm not obscuring this completely as I'm painting. I'm trying not to, but do keep these lighter lighter areas unpainted as well. Don't just cover it all in one big colour. Is that level, or am I going to go higher? Check my levels. Yeah, I can afford to go a bit more higher. Good. Now, let's put a slightly darker area in. So I'm going to go for a hybrid. Again, two colours mixed together. So it's like a string of colour now. And as we come nearer, we can afford to put these in as slightly darker shapes. They don't go at the, right at the back end, at the top of the horizon. Keep these nearer. And of course they will be longer. And if you just stroke the bottom of that shape, it will blend in with the colour that's the lighter colour and give you a soft gradient just like these. Gently does it. This is really quite easy. It's like everything, you can't do something if you don't know how to do it, but don't have the fear of not doing it. We're here to show you how. Good. You could even go, I think, on this area as it just comes slightly nearer to you on this bottom edge. Go even darker. So as you come nearer, you go slightly darker. More contrast. Now, let's put that brush down. I'm going to pick a different brush. I think I'm going to go for this one. Although, actually, no. I've just seen a much better one, which is that one over there, shorter. And the ambient colour, this cloud colour. So a bit of medium. Flattening the brush out. So I've got paint on both sides. I don't need the mouse stick for this, but very gently. Just on the near side, just on the, not the ones right at the back, but just the ones nearest to you. Gentle, thin crests can go in. Gosh, we're getting into detail. Oh, I'll have to watch this. Try really try really hard not to push the detail if I can. And of course these go on the tops. Not on every one, but they would go on the tops. Sorry about my voice. Of the dark crests. Ooh, that was a bit of magic. Happens occasionally. See what I'm doing? Hopefully I'm not obscuring the camera. And the nearer, because it's the nearest side of things, you can actually make them longer. I'll try and join that up if I can. Yeah, okay. Kind of works. If it doesn't, I'm taking it out. Don't worry. There's no stress. Oop, flatten the brush. I've made it into a round. Okay. Rachel's just given me the 2-minute warning. So let's pop this in. Step back and have a look. Yeah, you can see we've got some bits going on. Pardon me, past that. God, my throat's bad tonight. Sorry about this, guys. As soon as I can afford it, I'll get a new one. Right. Bit of the ambient light. Now, the biggest, I'm going to put this wave in. Of course, the wave is already there, but the foamy bits, this bit. The common thing is you would put titanium white in. Oh, please don't do that. That's such a wrong thing to do. So we're going to go to the shadow colour of the cloud, not of a body colour, okay? Not the shadow, the body. And we're going to start putting some of that in. Downward strokes. That's the little tip for you there. Downward strokes. Doesn't matter if you go along like I'm doing now, but generally speaking, try and keep the strokes in a downward motion. Now, I don't think you can see this yet. You might be able to see, but it's extremely near to like many other colours which are in the facility, but it's just the kind of body of the because this needs to be light, medium and dark. So this is the medium colour kind of going in. You can probably hear some of your voices going, gosh, there's such a lot to learn. There is, but you know, it's really fun learning it. And you'd be surprised what you can do. Oops, wrong colour. Oh dear. Always smile if you make a mistake. It's good. We learn. I learn not to dip my brush in the wrong colour next time. So you only learn when you make mistakes. I love making mistakes. It's also, when I do make them, like I said earlier, it gives you a chance to dig your way out of the hole. I can teach you how to get out of it. Right, so we're still coming along this edge, getting a bit thinner-ish. Now, magic is about to happen, so on the edges of your chairs, comes across here. I thought I'd say that just to... Okay, we got a crashy wave coming over. It's kind of, ooh, you know, it's coming over a bit. Now, let's bring this forward a little bit, I think. And I like this bit, so I'm going to bring this over, actually, make it so this comes across. I'm just going to, yeah, I like that. Gosh, fancy me looking at the drawing. Okay. It's picked up a bit of the dark from below, but that's okay, no problems there. Right, now, highlight. I've wiped the brush. I like the brush, so we're going to keep it. I like now putting in the highlight from the cloud colour on top, but not everywhere. Where the sun hits it, so, oops. So where the sun's over here, what's sticking out on the wave, or this crashy wave, is going to catch the sunlight. So let's make it a little bit lighter. But again, vertical strokes. So I'm probably going to overrun by about maybe 5 minutes on tonight's stream, because I'd like to get this in and show you. We'll start it. I don't want to break from it. So a little bit overrun, but not too much. Imagine it's just gone 7. And as I do this, the light begins to shine out against the darker colour. Now, tickle on top. Like I said, don't stick it all over, because that would be just pointless. I'm trying to think, this has got body to it. It's not all flat coming over in one piece of, you know, water. And there's also, it could be all sorts of stuff mingled in with it. So now we've got the medium colour, we've got some light colour. I'll put a bit more around here. And you guessed it, I'm going to put some dark colour on. That's the dark colour which is going to make this shine. So again, same brush, I've just wiped it. A bit of this dark. It's cloud colour. We're going to put this where the shadows are. Again, look at the brush technique. I'm pushing up with it. Around here. Now, you've got to think, if sunlight's coming across, this bit of water splashed up, well, a bit of water bit to its left isn't going to get the sunlight, so it's going to be in shadow. Might have gone a bit wild and woolly on that one, but never mind, it can bring it back. This is what gives your waves a kind of three-dimensional feel, is when that happens. You can see it kind of bouncing out. So again, little bits here and there. Don't go trying to go too much. Now, dry the brush, as in like wipe the brush, dry the brush. It's not exactly sopping wet, but just wipe the surplus paint off. And then, the tissue rips off. Go into the darkest colour, a little bit of medium to make it flow, and just the smallest amount of paint, you can complicate the base. And it brings the bottom into sharp focus if you do it right. Might need a bit more medium. I'll try and get this so you can see it. There we go, look at that. Can you see what that's doing? It's just making it bright, bringing it alive. Now, we haven't softened any of this yet. Please don't. It doesn't need it. My regular students are probably smiling away thinking, what's wrong? He's putting detail in. Scary stuff. But this is the beauty of a stream, isn't it? We're trying to cram XYZ into a limited period, so it's like you speed up as much as you can to fit all this stuff in at the end. But I think it's been a nice evening. I noticed I haven't stepped back and had a look at it, so hopefully it's all right. You guys can be my judge. And for 2 hours, we've got a fairly nice sky going on. We've got an interesting cloud. Okay, it needs a bit of work. What does that look like? Have a look at the screen. I think it's getting there. We've got a lot of work to do around here, but what I can do is to work on that and again record, so it'll be a video on the online school. We might even, let's see how we go. It might be nice to sort of see this one again, just the finishing touches, because I'd like to complicate up here a bit. So there's a number of different ways we can do that. So I'm going to call it there. So I hope you've enjoyed that. It's been an interesting couple of hours. I think the colours are nice. I think they work. They're related. Do you remember down here, the blue is this blue up here, yet the lighter trough here is this colour. And that gives it a sense of depth as well. Now, what I'd like to do, I think, is to show you how to break this up into the foam patterns, which makes it the sea and not something, anything else. That's I think what I'd like to do. I'm going to think on this and sleep on it. Might see this next week. If not, then you'll see the video, which will be on the online school as a recording for you to follow with full tuition. Guys, I hope you have a super week. Enjoy the weekend. Like I said, if have a check. We've still got 1 or 2 spaces left for the weekend painting in the New Forest on Saturday and Sunday. Which is this weekend coming. Just send an email or contact Rachel and we can book you on. Other than that, have a super week, and I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday evening. All the best, and bye for now.